Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be ranking all of Spark the Electric Jester stages from worst to best. Please note that this is all in my opinion and that you can feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. Also please note that I'm going to be ranking the stages off the criteria of the artwork, the stage gimmicks, and overall vibe that the stage gives to the player. Also, I'm not going to count Tower of Eos or Tower Climb, as those aren't proper stages, those are more boss rushes. Without further ado, let's get started. One thing I want to quickly mention before I go into the rankings is that the thing I love most about Spark stages is that it feels like lakefeperd took real life locations and mixed his own world building into those stages. For instance, one theme you might see throughout the entire stage is the world ring that goes around the entire, planet. This tiny but important detail really aids itself well to creating the world building for the Spark series, and it's something I greatly appreciate with this game's art style. Now with all that said, we're going to go into what I believe is the worst stage in the game. Please note that I don't think any of these stages are really bad per se, but that there are some that are just objectively better than others. And Mare Desert happens to be one of those stages that I believe to be worse than all the other ones, for a couple of reasons. For one, the art style of this place doesn't really appeal to me that much. It kinda just feels like a generic desert with random metal stuff popping out of the sand. Some notable things I do like about the stage, however, is that sick mirage effect with the towers in the background. This stage also picks up its pace with the Act 2 sandstorm and the cool little effects that brings to the level. But overall, I think the cool little details that Mare Desert does have are done better in other stages in the game. Doesn't help that it also features probably the weakest boss fight at the end of the stage. I mean, what is Prototype? Seriously, that guy is so bad. Some of the gimmicks for this stage are kind of interesting, like the purple goo, which gives you a double jump. Very satisfying to bounce off of walls using it, but the canyons are put to way better use in other stages, and they nearly ruined my no jump run of Spark the Electric Jester because of their placement in Mare Desert. Also the boarding sections, which lakefeperd seemed to be a fan of in the first game, weren't that interesting and were probably way more fun to do without the board, if I'm being completely honest. So yeah, not a bad stage, but nothing too remarkable either. I honestly feel like it should have been one of the beginning stages, since it was, featured in the trailers for this game. On to the next stage on the list, we have FM Canyon. This stage to me didn't really feel like much of a difference from FM City, as it still keeps the same art aesthetics in the background, except adding a few new canyons. For that reason, I have it so low on this list because really it just feels like Act 2 of FM City, but for some reason it's given its own level theme and, place in the time attack list. Very bizarre. But back to the level itself, I feel like the background art for FM Canyon is actually better than FM City personally, and the level design for it features a more open-ended approach instead of the linear one featured in FM City. Because of that, I feel like it works excellent as the second stage in the game, as it introduces the general level design that you'll see in Spark stages. And on top of that, it doesn't feature too many gimmicks yet, since it's still introducing the player to the main mechanics of the game, as well as letting them play around with the power-ups found in this place. Those power-ups being mainly Wind Jester and the Bat, and also Gravity if you're good enough. Also, the player is able to get more familiar with the combat in this game since the enemies are really small and don't pose that much of a threat to a player. So yeah, overall a solid stage just like the rest of them. Now Smog Sewer is one of those vibes-based types of stages. One of the stages that you listen to a video in the background while you play. It's just a simple and straightforward level, which is really good since it adds to the chilled out nature that the song accompanying it has. One of the gimmicks for this stage is this rocket-based enemy, which will periodically shoot jets of fire in any direction and you have to time your movement to it. And also these blue gravity pipes, which make Spark jump higher and faster. I think the best thing about this stage is finding out that there's no stupid drowning mechanic in this game, as you can just freely chill underwater and not have to worry about suffocating. This level also introduces the Chill Jester, probably one of the most fun combat-based power-ups in the game. The background art for this level is also incredible. I love the feeling it gives off as like an interior factory, with the water levels rising and falling as Spark traverses through this deep dark sewer into the city. Very appealing. Also, I like the background animations too, as most pixel art games based off of Sonic don't actually have moving backgrounds. That's one thing I think Spark the Electric Jester excels at in its artwork. The overall artwork for all these levels are generally just impressive for an indie game. Simply incredible. For next up on this list, we have the first level in the game, FM City. This is a perfect introduction level to the Spark franchise, and a well-earned one as I really love the level design. Straightforward and simple, just as it should be. One criticism I will give this level, however, is that it by far has the weakest background art in the entire game. Though that may be entirely by design, as I'm pretty sure lakefeperd wouldn't want to spoil the player to the gorgeous artwork he had in store. Whatever the reason may be, it's still pretty good, and it gets better once you get into the interior section of the level. That part where you have to travel to the warehouse, which has an open area and allows for some nice high-speed action. Simply perfect for a first playthrough of the game where you have to get a general idea of what Spark is going to be about. The first level of platformers are usually generally good as, they have to introduce the player to the main mechanics and you don't want to trip at the starting line. So yeah, just a very straightforwardly good stage. It accomplishes all the main goals that a first level in a video game should, while also still being very fun to veteran players of the franchise. Okay, I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one, but let me first say off that Sunfire Forest is a beautiful stage with a nice song in the background. That being said, I cannot get over the fact that this level has possibly the weakest level design out of all the other ones. Seriously, what's with all the bumper pads and the auto sections where you just blast your enemies with this invincible fire stuff? The water in this level doesn't really make that much sense either, as I thought it was a forest. Along with the other stuff such as the bumper pads and, snow, it feels like this stage's level aesthetic is all over the place. Which is a shame because, like I said before, the background art for it looks simply gorgeous. The most fun part of this level is probably the amount of speed you go at, since it has probably the most unique shaped loops out of the entire game. But that does not deter from the fact that this stage kinda is all over the place in terms of what it wants to be. It kinda copies a bunch of different gimmicks from multiple stages. It has the pipes from Regional Complex, the iconography from Litoria Bay, and many assets that you would go on to see in Metagraph Fleet. This level even took some stage gimmicks from Sonic games. Then again, that kinda makes sense, so not really a gripe. Overall, it seems like Sunfire Forest is one of the least thought out stages in the game with its aesthetics and its level design. Again, really beautiful, but not that focused. Still pretty fun though. Network Coast, the true second stage of Spark the Electric Jester. I just love the stage to death, man. The amazing mirage effect on the ocean in the background, the super tropical and chill musical track that plays alongside it, which you can find out my opinions on in this video, and the amazing color palette not only given to the tiles but also the enemies as well. This stage just screams fun to you, and you can't help but have a smile on your face as you traverse its gloriness. I feel like the level design for the stage was still trying to hold on to that simple and linear design seen in FM Canyon and City, but also trying to actively branch out from that, preparing the player for the more complicated stuff that will be ahead of them. Again, no serious stage gimmicks up to this point in the game, except for these sick boost pads that allow for some nice, chill, high-paced action. I will say that the level design gets a little bit challenging once you get to Network Harbor, but it's nothing too overwhelming for first players, and it's definitely not detracting from the fun of the stage. This stage also features the first moving boss that this game has, which I guess is pretty neat. Like I said, Network Coast is overall just an extremely fun stage to play. It's meant for those players who just want to sit back, relax, and play a chilled level with not too much difficulty. And for that, I commend it. Turbulence Plains, one of the more underrated levels in Spark the Electric Jester. One of the reasons for this, I think, is because Turbulence Plains comes right in that awkward point in the game where you just got done with Caria Valley and you're right before the end game of Spark the Electric Jester. But to me, in my opinion, Turbulence Plains looks just as gorgeous as Caria Valley in terms of art aesthetics. The musical track for this level doesn't though, sadly, even though I think it's still good. One of the reasons why I think Turbulence Plains is a really underrated stage that doesn't get the attention it deserves is because it probably has one of the strongest stage concepts that lakefeperd has come up with. I mean, come on, the idea of a giant open field with towering wind turbines above your head as you travel between a location that mixes technology and nature perfectly just sounds like an awesome place to be at. Not to mention that it carries over some of the aesthetics from Caria Valley, such as the train system traveling through the level. This is also the stage where we get to see the wildlife that lakefeperd has come up with for the planet of Luna. Everything about this stage just screams creativity and is simply gorgeous to experience. It also seems like this stage was made with the Wind Jester in mind, since, his aesthetics are copying the aesthetics of the level and all. Definitely an underrated gem in the Spark series, and I wish more people talked about it. Alright, next we have Regional Complex, another underrated level that not many people talk about. Now I must admit, I used to think that Regional Complex was the lowest level on the list and was probably the only example of a bad level I would give in this game, as I hate the theme for this level, and I used to think that the level design was really annoying. But having playing it before and gone over it a couple more times in recent playthroughs, I can really appreciate what Regional Complex was trying to go for. It's a giant interior warehouse space that stores robotic parts and builds mechanical stuff. The reason why I've come to like this level doesn't really have to do much with the beginning portion, even though I still think it's good. It has everything to do with the second portion or act of this level, Raynal Plateau. See, after you get done with the kind of annoying stage gimmicks, the rotating fans, the pipes that have worms in them, and the stupid boss at the end, you get treated to this amazing backdrop with the sun-setting mountains in the background. I would say that this background art for the stage is the best one in the entire game, even better than Caria Valley's, which I know is a really crazy take to say. It's just that good, man, and I love the transition to this more stormy area of the level, where you have to fight with one of the main robots who accompanies you into, the final endgame of Spark the Electric Jester. This stage just really sets the tone that, yeah, you're approaching the end of the game, and things are going to get really serious from here on out, and I love it. Alright, we have Smog City, probably one of the most recognizable stages in Spark the Electric Jester. I think this is my most played stage in the entire game, since I see myself coming back to it so often through playthroughs, especially with the SPC challenges. They use this stage a lot. But is it that good? I would say, yeah. With its nice iconography in the background, it's time for you to get dashy in this level, as it's probably the most fast-paced level in the entire game, to be honest. I really just like the cyberpunk-esque aesthetic that this level has. It shows that this particular type of aesthetic doesn't always have to be inside of a dark, eddy, and grungy city, that you could also apply this aesthetic to more lively and open areas. But one of the coolest things I like about the art in the background is the fact that it's so claustrophobic. All of the buildings and stuff are super packed together, and it really gives off that feeling of a really rundown city that has a pollution problem. A really sick idea for a level if you ask me. And like I said, the level gimmicks for the stage are simply focused on enhancing your movement and making sure you move as fast as possible. Though these dash pads require a little more effort on the player, as you have to time your dashes perfectly in order to activate them. With that being said, this auto-scroll section of the level is also pretty fun, as you have this little chaser try to crush you to death as you have to dodge all the enemies incoming. And the final boss of this level, Tropus, happens to have some of the most funny dialogue scenes with Spark in the entire game. Really just a joy to play through. I love Smog City. It's crazy to think that in the beta of this game, lakefeperd was only going to have it as a cutscene, and not as its own individual stage. Okay, for the next stage on this list, we have Metagraph Fleet, probably one of the most epic stages in the game. If not a bit cliche, since the idea of a character traveling through a giant air fleet of battling ships is a bit overdone in this type of genre. Nevertheless, Metagraph Fleet does a great job to prove why this concept is so fun to engage with. First of all, you have this huge difficulty spike that is probably harder than the final level in the game, Metagraph Fortress, and you also have these really sick gimmicks in the stage, such as the time limit. In Fark's story, you have these little orbs that chase you around, and if you accidentally touch them, they'll activate some sort of attack that is really hard to dodge. And then finally, you have the giant laser cannons that do a ton of damage, which you have to destroy and navigate against. Overall, I'd say Metagraph Fleet is the point in Spark the Electric Jester where you have to really put all the skills you've learned so far to the test, and as a result, you have this insane adrenaline rush as you die over and over again to this incredibly difficult stage. And to top it all off, you have the epic boss battle at the end against Spark the Electric Jester. Definitely one of the most hypest points in the game, and definitely a high point for me. Plus, as a bonus, I know I said I want to talk about the OST, but Metagraph Fleet's OST is really underrated and sadly doesn't really get the attention it deserves, as it's a really nice level track. Alright, now on to Litoria Bay. This level really grew on me over the past few years, as I believe it is the most underrated level in the entire game. See, most people seem to forget that this level exists, which I think is a shame because musically and artistically, it is just as well crafted as most of the other popular ones in the fan base. First of all, the concept of a giant illuminated amusement park is a very strong and fun one that I don't see used too often in 2D platformers. Second of all, I think that this stage has the most non-linear level design out of all the other stages in the game. You have so many new gimmicks introduced into this one level, as well as many branching pathways that also have mazes and fast-paced sections that you have to navigate through. From the bouncing platforms that you get after you kill the robots attached to them, to the special platforms that you have to attack in order to activate them, this stage is filled with so many fun obstacles and gimmicks that it's actually kind of hard to believe that it's forgotten by most people in the fanbase. I was blown away by just how much fun I had on my second playthrough of Spark the Electric Jester. Litoria Bay is truly a treat. And let's not forget about that Romalo boss battle at the end. Jeez, it probably has the coolest gimmick out of the entire game, since Romalo utilizes holographs in order to attack you. And lakefeperd uses this great concept for a boss in order to showcase his amazing and versatile skills at creating scenes and amazing boss ideas for the player. Litoria Bay is just an underrated gem of a level, and has easily risen my ranks as one of the most fun ones in Spark the Electric Jester. Now, Luna Base is another one of those levels that have grown on me over the years, but let me just say right off the bat that the tone and overall vibe of this level is the best in the entire game. Right off the bat, let me just mention that this level has 0 enemies, completely none. That is such a rare choice to see in such a platforming game, and it honestly works brilliantly, as it really sets the tone shift in the game, and signifies to the player that they are now at the halfway point. On top of that, you have the amazing score by Funk Fiction playing in the background that really just adds to the overall melancholy and epicness of this level. You'd think for a level based off of an underground base filled with lava, that the atmosphere would be super dark and gritty, but instead, it has an emotional feel to it, like this is Spark's time to actually get serious. Like this is the point in Spark's story where he's no longer playing a game, and that he can seriously be risking his life if he continues. And Luna Base really sells that idea, with the beginning of it featuring Freon telling Spark that exact thing. And it's like the stage itself is giving Spark the time to contemplate on his decision on whether he should continue this journey or not. I know it sounds really pretentious, but simple stuff like that really just makes this game and this level stand out the most. And that's precisely why I have it on the top 5 spot. It's because Luna Base is just such an amazing level. Okay, now for this next one, Metagraph Fortress, this actually used to be my favorite level in the entire game. And as you can clearly see, it's still quite the favorite as it's in the top 5 spot. First of all, I just want to say that the music for this level is probably the best level track in the game, though I might change my opinion on that soon, I'll have to see. But man, Metagraph Fortress just throws everything at you. If you thought Metagraph Fleet was hard, you haven't seen anything yet, as this thing is just a nest littered with mechanical robots. I love that little section at the beginning of this level, where you hear the sirens going off and you just have Spark infiltrating Freon's lair. It makes you feel like a complete badass. And once you actually get inside the level, all hell breaks loose as you are just thrown about everywhere. I think that literally everything you've learned so far in the game is thrown at the player, and it's up to you to navigate through your instincts and figure out what's the best decision to make throughout the entire level. The stage makes you feel claustrophobic as you have to navigate through these tight, narrow passageways filled to the brim with enemies. You are basically guaranteed to die at least once on this level, even for the more seasoned players such as myself. And if we're talking about your first playthrough, oh forget it, this is probably going to take you at least 30 minutes to complete. And the art direction for this level, especially in the second part, is absolutely stunning. I feel like lakefeperd's pixel art style and the way he draws backgrounds and landscapes is really underrated, and he should probably be praised way more for it. Onto the gimmicks of this level, and you can see more Sonic inspirations in this level, since you know, it literally has the little gadget from Death Egg. Though I will admit, this stage is pretty clever with how it utilizes previous gimmicks found in other stages. Overall, I feel like Metagraph Fortress will satisfy any players looking for a hardcore challenge if they felt the entire game was too easy thus far. I certainly did. Okay, now for this next level, Corona Forest, I just feel like it's the best level to introduce people to the Spark franchise. It kind of feels like it features the best aspects of the game in just one level. It has really nice background art and level aesthetics, it has a banger soundtrack in the background, and most importantly, it has nice open-ended level design. It also features some of the best enemies in the entire game. I mean, just look at these things. They look gorgeous. I also find Karana Forest interesting as it's one of the only nature-based levels in the game besides Turbulence Plains, which I always find appealing. But that's not the reason why the stage is on the list. Oh no, no, no. The reason for why it's this high is because of that excellent set piece at the end where you have to fight Ka. That is probably one of the best boss fights in the entire game, and Karana Forest sets it up brilliantly with how you had to fight the forest spirit Karana, and then you have Romulo's robot skeleton get absolutely eviscerated by this deadly robot. A really cool scene and an excellent way to end off the level. I haven't even mentioned some of the other aspects of Karana Forest, such as that gorgeous underwater section, and the funny level gimmicks such as the box crushing pipes and the beehives. Overall, this level just feels like an excellent cooldown after the amazing Litoria Bay and a great precursor to Mare Desert. Plus the main color palette for this level is green, which is the best color obviously. Okay, for this next one on the list, it's honestly so obvious that it shouldn't even be a surprise to you. We have Karia Valley, probably the most popular level and the most noticeable level in the entire game. I mean, it's really popular for obvious reasons such as the brilliant music and the absolutely gorgeous background art, probably being the most beautiful out of the entire game. Honestly, the only real surprise this placement on the list should have is why is it not number 1? But on to the level, I mean, do I really need to explain much? It's Karia Valley. It comes right after the most melancholic level in the game, Luna Base, and hits you like a jet with just how beautiful and mesmerizing the stage is. Seriously, when I got to this level on my first playthrough, my jaw dropped with just how well composed it was. And let's not forget about that level design. Remember how I said that the stages after Mare Desert would use the cannon gimmick way better? Well, this is one of those stages. It also utilizes some of the platform gimmicks from Litoria Bay as well. And the casual use of lava in this level to add a little bit of a difficulty spike to the player is just amazing level design. lakefeperd really just outdid himself and said, you know what, let me make a masterpiece real quick. Karia Valley is just simply that amazing, and it's one of those that you'll just have to play for yourself in order to see what the hype is about. Shoot, I want to play the game right now as I'm recording, just thinking about it. Okay, wow. Finally to the number 1 level in the entire game. If you had asked me a couple of years ago what I thought of Sunset Heights, I probably wouldn't have even had it close to the top on this list. But after playing Spark the Electric Jester countless times, I can officially say that, in my opinion, Sunset Heights is the definitive best level in the entire game. I know this is very much not a popular opinion, but to me, this level just has the best atmosphere and vibe. First of all, why does the soundtrack for this level have to go that hard? Like, it has no business being this good for an indie game, no less. And that background art, man, oh my goodness, it's just so mesmerizing. People constantly talk about how amazing Karia Valley looks, with its brilliant color palettes and its amazing art aesthetics. But Sunset Heights, man, it just takes it to the next level. I mean, would you take a look at this? The animated buildings and vehicles in the background really just add to the atmosphere and flair of this level. That you're just a lone jester running throughout the skyscrapers trying to stop the robot army from taking over the world. It gives Spark the Electric Jester that amazing vibe that I only see in this game and this franchise alone. On top of that, you have one of the sickest boss battles at the end of the level, with the skylines being dark and stormy, and Fark sitting on top of the crow robot, warning Spark that should he ever continue his journey, he shall be in a world of trouble. It's just moments like these that have come to make me love the Spark series as a whole. And Sunset Heights just happens to be one of the highest, see what I did there, points of the game for me. The fun gimmicks that have just the perfect amount of difficulty, mixed together with the absolutely breathtaking atmosphere and aesthetic, really makes Sunset Heights not only the best level in Spark the Electric Jester, but possibly one of my favorite levels out of any 2D platformer ever. And that is why I of course have it at the number 1 spot. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to tell me in the comments below what you would say is the best level in the game, as I'm sure my opinion does not nearly encapsulate the entire fanbase. I really had fun making this video and sharing my opinions, as I'm sure it's bound to stir up some nice conversations about Spark the Electric Jester. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as always, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.